So now that we got our rebuild kit in, we're going to make sure that everything's going to go to plan as what we've got going on today.
Because, yeah, so we're going to make sure everything works the way we thought it was going to work. So as you saw in Brookie's unboxing video, you know, doing all that, we got standard bearings and standard pistons, standard rings. So we got standard crank, standard rod, standard pistons, and standard rings. So, and because we felt like that was going to be the right size with what we had measured before. So today, now that we have the parts in, now we can actually measure the parts themselves, because they're not always exactly what a standard is supposed to be per se. It's close, but it's not exactly that number. So we need to know what that number is, so we actually know what our piston wall clearance is in our bores, or our oil clearance on our crank, or our mains, or our rods. So we're going to go through, we cleaned up these bores a little bit more, just a little penetrating oil, Scotch-Brite, and then just brake clean to clean them up. And we've actually gone through already, and we've just remeasured the thrust faces in each of the bores just to double check our numbers, measure twice, order parts once, measure twice, install parts once, and they live, hopefully. So we measured at the top of the bore where the skirt contacts the bore, and the bottom of the bore where the skirt contacts the bore. Again, gone through. Our numbers were just slightly different, not a great deal, not like we had a gross error, but we're like 5/10 of a thousandth or half a thousandth off on some of them, which half a thousandths in piston wall clearance is a pretty big deal, though, because this standard rebuild on this engine, or the standard piston wall clearance, is 1.2 thousandths to 2.2 thousandths piston to wall clearance. So a half a thousandths of those is 50% of the low, almost 50% of the lower end of that. So significant enough, and it may have just been a little bit of corrosion on the bore, or some staining, because this engine had sat for, I can't remember now, what was it? At least 5 years?
Yeah, something like
17, that. 5 to 6 years, if I remember right, that this engine had sat outside, likely, so moisture got in there. We have a little bit of rust on the bottom of one of these bores, not where the piston actually travels. But so anyways, we just knocked that off with the idea that that wasn't giving us some error with the bore gauge. So now that we've done that, we double checked our bore. Now we're going to go through and we're going to measure our pistons first, and then we'll move on to the bearing side of things. But we're going to measure our pistons first and see what our piston dimension actually comes to. Now these pistons, these are a rebuilder's piston. So this brand is DNJ. The other stuff we got is Engine Tech. So when you get I didn't read the DNJ website particularly. I thought they were going to send Engine Tech pistons. Long story short, they didn't. DNJ pistons, supposed to be about the same quality as Engine Tech. But a lot of times with a rebuilder piston, what they do is they oversize the skirt a thousandths, or 8/10 or something like that, with the idea that they know that your block is not new. You're not buying a rebuilder piston to put in a new block. You're buying a rebuilder piston to put in a used block. Now, if your used block is close enough to standard size, it has a little bit of wear at least, so they help you out by adding a little bit more on the skirts, so that you can not cheat, but you can not have to bore this block bigger to put a oversized piston. So they help you out a little bit, which is actually what Ford did too. We look in the manuals, and there's actually 3 different piston range sizes in color ratings. I can't remember what the color ratings were, but that you'd size to a block. But so they help you out by doing that. They also, I was reading, they take a little bit of 10 to 20 thousandths off the top also, with the idea that with a rebuilder piston, rebuilding a block, you may be decking the block, so they help you so that your piston to deck clearance, you won't have, let's say, a piston popping out of the deck after you've cleaned it off. We're hoping to get away without decking this block, which we're also going to measure today. We're going to clean up this surface. We're going to scrape it, stone it, and check it with, we have a bar that we'll use to check for how flat it is. But first, we're going to go ahead and measure each one of these pistons, and we're going to write right on the top of them how big they are, because we may find that these pistons are all a little bit different in diameter, and we can be smart, we can be calculated, and we can match each one of these pistons to a bore based on its dimension and pairing them up so that the piston wall clearance is as ideal as it can be. All right, so let's measure them out.
At the 1.5 miles, 101.607.
Okay, so let's go through. We'll measure each of the pistons, and then Brookie's going to write right on the top of the piston what size they are. So then later on, it's very visual for us to figure out when we're trying to figure out all these numbers and pairing and all that stuff. It's visual, so we won't make the least amount of mistakes. So we're only going to be measuring on the skirt right here because this is the dimension that matters. Up in here, this area around where the ring pack is, that's actually smaller than the skirts because these are the thrust surfaces. Now they're not actually supposed to touch the bores. There's supposed to be a layer of a film of oil that is on the piston bore itself in the hatching, which we can talk about that later when we talk about honing. So it's riding on a film of oil, and then the oil ring is what keeps the oil from getting into the combustion chamber. But this area here is smaller nonetheless, so we only need to measure this thrust surface here. So that's what we're going to do. We got our 3 to 4 mic, and I'm going to measure it. And I'm going to be very careful because these are carbide tips, and this edge right here is extremely sharp. So we need to be very delicate when we put it on that skirt coating because we don't want to damage the skirt coating. And I'm just going to put that on there and then slide it off ever so slightly. So we've got 3503, sorry. 35034. Now I'll measure that one more time just to make sure. Yep, 35034. So right, 35034 right on the top of that. Right there.
Like big?
It doesn't have, no, not huge. Just
like
3.5034.
Is that good?
Yep. So for now, we'll just set the piston back in. Whoops. We'll put the wrist pin back up inside of it. We'll set it there. So then we can just look down in the box and see what the dimensions are.
Do you want me to unpack it then?
It's all right. Oops, I need this part. Yeah, just put the wrist pin in the bag in the bottom. Yep. All right, let's measure this one. So this one we got 3.5 and then 3 and 8. So this one is 3.5038.
3.5038.
3.5038, yes.
3.5038. Yes.
This one is 3.503. 03. Man, my eyes are getting kind of blurry. Getting old. 3. 3.503.
3.5033.
33.
Right?
No, it's 4.
034.
Yep, it's 4. Thank you for waiting. That was perfect. Yep. 034. So this is 3.503. 4 again. Three 3.5033. This one is this one's a little bit smaller, so this is 3.5029.
3.5029.
3.5029. So we've got, smallest is 3.5029, largest is 3.5038. So we have a difference of, what's that difference? 9/10. We got a difference of 9/10 between our biggest and smallest, almost a thousandths between biggest and smallest. And then we have 3 that are the same. We might as well call this, we have 4 that are the same because it's a 33 versus a 34. So these are only a 1/10 of a thousandths difference. So we've got a small one and a big one to fit in our small and big holes. And then if we, real quick, let's look at our numbers here. So real quick, if we look at our numbers here, we've got our big one is 605. So that's going to be our 3/8 hole, which I think that 605, math, 6. This is supposed to be 506. 605. No, this is supposed to be 5065. This number is supposed to be 5065. It's funny too because I
wrote down what you told me.
I know. I was saying. I know you did. So it's 5065. And the funny thing is, when I did a little I was fooling around with calculator earlier, and I used the right number even though I was staring at the wrong number. So we've got this. Our largest hole is 5065. And then this is 5052. Uh, 5052. 506, 505. Let's run through these. Let's go back through these real quick, okay, and verify them. All right. We'll do that. We'll be right back. All right, so yeah, we just had to double check some numbers here. So this was just a quick reread on the numbers. So our largest hole is a 6.5. So we'll pair that with the 3/8, which if I can do math, that's 2.5. So that's what is that? 2.7 thousandths clearance if we pair those. So that's a little bit over the 2.2 that it calls for the factory, but we have to keep in mind that we're going to be running this engine really hard when we go race it. Now, driving on the street, Brookie's not going to run it that hard. There's no reason to run it that hard on a going-to-town rig. But, excuse me, when we're running it at Loring, though, we're going to be holding it for 1.5 miles, wide open. You know, it's pretty brutal. So, if we had a little extra room, a little extra clearance on the piston and wall, that's a good thing. So, I did some research with companies like Wiseco, Seal Power, I'm trying to think, Wiseco, Keith Black, drawing a blank, a couple other piston manufacturers, what they recommend for a hyper-eutectic, which this is a hyper-eutectic piston. So it is a cast aluminum piston, but it's a hyper-eutectoid. Eutectoid. There's more silicone in this, so it makes it a very stable material that doesn't change size when it heats up as much as a regular forging, and it has better size, has better thermal stability. There we go. Better thermal stability than a regular cast aluminum piston. So they hold shape. But anyways, nonetheless, looked at those piston manufacturers to see what they suggest. And on the standard numbers that we have, like in the book for this engine, that would be for a regular street driving car. Clearances is fine, but once you add nitrous or you add any kind of racing, the clearances, the range goes from like 1.5 to 2.5 to 1.5 to 4.5. So with 4.5, it's a little bit sloppy for a street driving car, but at 2.7 though, we're right there. We're really close. So then let's take our smallest piston at 2.9. So our smallest piston at 2.9, and what's our smallest board, Brookie? I think we got a 502.
Yeah.
And a 505.
Wait, is that a 502?
Yep.
505 too.
Sorry, a 52 and a 5. So this 5 number here, our 2.9 is, we got 2.1 thousandths. That's a good fit. So 2.1, which that's actually in the factory specs. Now when we hone, if we're going to do this, we're going to take a 3-stone hone. We're going to deglaze the cylinder. I'm pretty sure we have Moly rings. We're going to have to look at those again. I think we got the Engine Tech Premium rings, which should be a Moly faced ring. Nope, those are the bearings. The piston rings are in there. So a Moly face ring. So I think, again, I looked at some Hastings, Wiseco, Sealed Power, looked at their suggestive bore finish, because if we're going to do this at home, if we're going to hone it at home, I need to make sure I have the right tools to do it. So I think we're going to deglaze with like a 220 grit stone on the hone, just to deglaze. And then we're going to get a flex hone, a dingleberry hone, a grapestone hone. It's all sorts of different names for it, but we'll get a flexible hone that is a 320 grit. And that's what we'll finish with to create a plateau finish, which we can draw some pictures for that. Plateau finish for the bore. So that'll take a little bit off each one of the bores. So these clearances will open up just a bit too. So then we have 3, 4, and then our average hole is a 6 or a 5, 5. So on a 6, a 3, 4 is 2, 6, so 2.6 thousandths, which that's fine. And then a 5, 5, where 2.1 thousandths. So it's actually pretty good. We have one hole that's big, you know, within our measurements here, and we've got a piston that's big. We got one hole that's kind of smaller than the others, and we've got a small piston. So I think this is going to work. I think we're all set. We're gonna do some at home machining, honing. So yeah, I think this project, piston wise, I think we're good. So now we got to move on and check the Now you've heard me say it a bunch of times. Why don't you just do?
I can't do that.
Okay.
I know the first part?
What's the first part?
Well, we remeasured the bores.
We
cleaned them.
Yep.
Remeasured them.
Yep.
And then opened up our new piston. Well, we already did that, but opened them up, measured those, all of them, and decided that they were gonna fit pretty well inside the bores.
So matching each piston, because they're all there. We have two. We have a large one, a small one. Large and small. They're within a thousandths of each other. But large and small pistons, and then we have a group in the four in the middle that are all about the same size. We're going to pair those with the bores based on their size, and to get as ideal of a piston wall clearance as we can. So our largest piston wall clearance is 2.7 thousandths, or 0.0027, and then our smallest piston wall clearance is 0.0021, or 2.1 thousandths, and that is, the 2.1 is within the factory spec. The 2.7 is just outside of the factory spec, but where Brookie's going to hot lap this thing up to Loring, she's going to hold it right to the wood for a mile and a half. It's going to be pretty stressful on this engine than just your typical highway driving in town. Maybe heavy towing comparable to that. Not that I would do heavy towing with this vehicle, but nonetheless, she's just going to hold it. She's going to hold it for a mile and a half flat out, and she's going to want a hot lap. She's going to want to go around and around and around again, because it's a whole bunch of fun to go as fast as you can and have no consequences other than the ones you create for yourself, I guess. Yeah. So having a little more clearance isn't bad, because with that sustained load, we get more heat into all of the parts and things grow a little bit more, which in the case of the piston gets larger, the block gets larger, and the clearance between the piston and the bore gets smaller. And that's how we end up with, you want to grab Gramps' piston? And that's how we end up with something like this, when you end up with a piston that has scuffed the skirt. So this skirt has actually contacted the bore, and the piston skirt is actually not supposed to touch the bore. It's supposed to ride on a film of oil the whole time. But when you grow big enough that you don't have any room for the oil anymore, we get metal on metal, and then it's just bad. Okay, so we're allowing ourselves a little bit more clearance now. We didn't design that in; it's just what we got. Just what happened. Yep. And we don't want to bore this engine because we're kind of on a budget with this. And by the time we got done through the machine shop, getting it bored, honed, and everything else, we'd have it cleaned and all that, where it's going to be kind of expensive for what we're trying to do with this truck. So, and right off the bat, we'd have to start cutting the wants out of the list, and one of the wants is
lowering the truck.
And we want to lower it in a way that is the best handling and suspension and everything. So we want to lower it with beams and not just springs and a flip kit. So, and that's expensive. It's like $500 and something all said and done. So machine work, probably going to cost that if we have to take this block to the machine shop. So it's good if we can just do this, because then we can try to get as much out of this project as we want and need. So just doing some measurements, being calculated, I think we're going to be just fine. So we're going to have an engine that I think is going to survive getting the snot beat out of it. Oh, not to mention, if we ever do want to use nitrous on this engine, or if we ever do want to, I don't know why we would, but do forced induction, or just get a little more power out of this engine, we're going to be asking more of it than it was designed for. So it's good to have a little more clearance. Piston rings, we're going to have a little more ring end gap. We're going to plan for the future of maybe, like I said, doing the nitrous, or maybe some, I don't know, long time from now, some forced induction. I don't think that's in the cards, but maybe a little shot of nitrous. So that's an easy thing to do to make a bunch of power for the infrequent use that it will need to make that much power, like going to lowering. So now the next critical path thing I think we have is we got to check how flat the deck surfaces are, because that's something else. That's something else we can't do here. Like we can't bore cylinders in the shop. We can do honing. So we will use a 3-stone hone to deglaze the cylinders, and we're going to use like a 240 grit deglaze, and then we don't have it yet. I got to order it, but a flex stone, a dingleberry hone, whatever, to do the final finish on the bores at a 320 because our rings are moly. At least the top ring is moly because we got the Engine Tech Premium rings. That seems to be the finish that we're looking for if you were to do it at home, and we don't have a sun-in machine, honing machine here in the shop. So the next critical path, machine shop type thing, is we got to check that the decks are flat. So what we're going to do is we're going to scrape the decks, we're going to stone them, and then, we're going to pull the dowels first, we're going to scrape the decks, we're going to stone them, and then we do have a calibrated bar, steel bar that came from Gramps' business that he used to have. He used it for checking for, usually it was corrosion issues with propane, bulk propane transportation tanks. So a propane delivery truck, Gramps Company used to build those. I worked with them for some time too. And when you were doing a visual inspection, you used the bar up against the shell of the tank, and you would measure the depth of whatever the irregularity is or the damage. But so we are fortunate enough to have a calibrated ground bar. Not everybody has those, but you can also use a high quality straight edge ruler and stuff. Can be close enough, at least just a gross measurement of how is it warped or not. So that's what we're going to do. We won't bore you with cleaning this up though. So we'll catch up to you when we're ready to measure.
Blue Man. You know Blue Man?
Yes.
Blue Man Group. Yes. All right. So now we've scraped, we've stoned this surface. One side. We've done the one side. So we're going to check this for flatness. So we're going to use the straightness gauge that we have, and we're going to check for flatness. This is the block supposed to be a max of 3 thousandths. Okay, max of 3 thousandths. So we'll put our gauge crossways. Look at that. That one is way off. How is that going to work?
What?
Look, you can stick a finger under there.
I know.
Yeah, on top of
I know. I'm right here.
Okay, so we've already, Brookie has already done our selection of gauges. Can you hold that a second? Let's get some more light over there. So let's check. Let's start with our service limit. You want to hold that again? Sorry, the service limit wasn't out.
Yeah, make sure you rock it so it's flat.
So we got 3 thousandths. That's our service limit. So hold that end under. 3 does not fit. 1.5 does. 2 just does. You want to hold it again? So we had 2.5.
Yeah, you got a high spot right in here for us.
No, I know. Yeah. So we go. Yeah, so 3 doesn't fit. 2 does fit. So it's between 3 and 2. So that's within reason. So we'll go. It still has a high spot in this area here. So let's go with our 3. 3 doesn't fit. 2 just starts, or just goes under, and I'd say 1.5 is that actually does fit. It just fits. So then we'll go across the block this way.
What you can do for us is just, if 1.5 is just so, just lift it up a little bit, slide it in, put pressure on it and then pull it out and feel your drag.
It won't matter if it doesn't go under.
Yes, I know.
So this is a go, no go. So we're looking at this as a go, no gig. If the 3 doesn't go, we're good anyways.
Yeah.
Checking it for the other 2 is just because we're here. Other than that, it doesn't matter.
Pretty much.
So 3 definitely doesn't fit. There's no seaming rock, which there could be a dish in the middle. So actually, we'll check it on this side. So we can, sorry, I rolled it up. 1.5 does not fit. 1.5 does not fit. So this side of the block is good. Plenty flat enough.
Yeah.
And so there's just seems like there is just a little bit of a high spot here, but
you could take your hone and knock it down. It would bring everything more within under specs, really, as far as the max.
yeah. So if we stone a little bit more in this area, we could take that high spot off just a little bit. But this side's good, so we'll pause. We'll scrape. Oh, Brookie's already scraped, so now we got to stone this side. Actually, why don't we go through the stoning process, because we didn't show that yet. We did the time lapse. I don't know why this. Oh, you know why? Because this is a 60-degree V6, not a 90.
Why is it still going?
But
so it doesn't come up flat.
It's got to do with these 2 fars. They're not on.
Right, but at the same time, if one was flat,
Right.
if it were a 90 V, then this one would line up. It's a 60-degree. Yeah. So it would be convenient if it was held like that. If we put a clamp in there.
That other one. It's got the set screw in it in
Clamp?
between the holes, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, we'll just go like this.
How about a smaller bolt? Stick a small bolt.
That's all right. We'll just move. Yeah. All right, so we'll get you folks over here so you can see
What am I up to now?
what's going on. All right, so we're gonna stone this side. Brookie's got it all scraped and everything, so we'll get this side stoned. Probably gonna. Do you want to do it or?
I don't know. Am I gonna break something?
You shouldn't be able to break something.
Well, I'll probably break your stone.
So what we're using is this Norton combination bench stone or India oil stone. This one is a 1x2x6. You can get these larger. You can get them in an 8-inch length. I can't remember if they're I think it's 1x2x8, and they get even bigger than that. But this is something typically you'd see in a machine shop used to stone vices or mill tables or any parts, just to take off any nicks or anything like that. These are very flat as long as you maintain them very flat. If you use this to sharpen knives and you waller the belly out, then it's not going to be so flat. This stone I only use for doing this type of surfacing, so it should stay pretty flat.
You can do it. I'll watch.
Okay.
And I'll learn from the sidelines.
Alright, so what we're going to do is just got some penetrating oil. We're just going to spray a little bit on the surfaces. Like this. Just a little spritz. And then the key is not to fall on the boards, not to fall off, and to be consistent. And a lot of what we're doing is we're taking off the leftover gasket material. And we could have used like a Scotch-Brite roll-lock disc on a angle grinder, on a little 90-degree die grinder, but the problem with that is you'll actually remove the material itself, and you will make this block not flat anymore. Those are quite aggressive and can be, so you'll create little divots everywhere, wherever you're trying to take off more material. So the best thing to do is use something flat like this that goes across the whole surface, and you can see all that black goo. That is likely just leftover gasket material in all these places, and we can see some shiny spots. Those are the high spots, and the dark spots will be the low spots. We'll go over this just a little bit more.
Just using that, it gives you a good representative sample of what the surface looks like overall. thing is, you kind of want this area right here high, because that is going to be your compression sealing point around each one. You know,
all right, so now we'll clean this. What I do is I'll clean the stone with a little bit of brake clean, because you don't. The stone will fill up. You don't want it to fill up with material. We'll clean it, and then we'll take our rag. You're fine. We'll take our rag and we'll put a little brake clean on there. Then we'll go through and we'll wipe off
all the black grossness.
Wipe off the goo. We'll do this a couple times. We just do it in steps, because the stone doesn't have much room in its pores to hold material. So you got to clean the surface and the stone quite often,
regularly,
for it to keep biting and to keep removing the goo. So this time I'm going to just spray the stone itself. Run it across the whole surface. That gets the oil even. Move it on me. Okay. Clean our stone again. Like that.
I gotta take this out. I'm not gonna use it anyway.
What is it?
It's the oil pressure sending unit. That.
Alright, we'll clean this up. I think this is good enough to check if it's flat, because we got shiny, shiny, shiny across the middle, and shiny in crossways, because I really care about the bore area, not as much around the other areas. Or maybe we'll do a little bit more.
Yeah, you notice this one here has got kind of dark.
Yep, it is dark right there, yeah, so we'll go a little bit more.
But other than that,
yep, we'll go, and we'll get this so you can see.
It's like we're near where the valve relief has been cut. This one's fine. Yeah, just where the valve relief seems to be narrow. It could be just some...
Yeah, we'll go one more round.
Yeah. Yeah, and even more after you get done just checking it. Make it as good as you can.
Go one more round. We're gonna go with the fine. Go with the fine side of the stone this time.
Me and Grampy match. Our pens.
Oh, you guys are both rocking the Sharpies, huh?
Yep, he's got a little spot for it too.
You're looking pretty sharp.
For the Sharpie twins.
We're looking sharp with our Sharpies.
Looking sharp with the Sharpies.
It's kind of funny, I went through those and checked each one and threw out the dry ones. Yeah, I would take them and I'd draw a line if it faded after a foot, go away. They write good when you first start, but as soon as you go any distance, and it's frustrating when you're holding a straight edge or you got a template and you're trying to draw around and get everything held in place, and then the marker runs out.
Yeah.
Aggravating.
Alright, I'm going to call that good for now. That's looking cleaner. Yeah.
Yeah. Those particular rags don't stand up very well.
No, but it works good enough for what we're doing. Good enough for what we're doing.
Old t-shirt.
All right, so let's check this thing for stradiness again.
Here,
so get no, it's all right. Just leave it right where it is.
I was going to hold it upright.
No,
okay.
It's fine. So again, we've got we're doing our go no go gauge. So this is our max, and then these other two are just for our own knowledge of how far out is it, if it is out. So we'll go crossways first. There's no rock. So let's put our 3, no 3, no 3, no 3, no 3. Let's do our thou and half, no thou, no thou, no thou. It's good. We'll go straight across the middle, which has no rock.
Which is good.
Nothing, nothing, nothing. So then the middle, if there's no rock, then we would have a low spot in the middle, and we have nothing there. So again, this way. So no rock, doesn't feel like there's any rock. No 3, no 3, no 3. And check thou and a half, no thou and a half. So I would say that this thing is serviceable as it is, which is a good thing. Well, it was a productive day over at Gramps, the late start racing headquarters, working on Brookie's Ranger. We got quite a bit done. What did we get done, Brookie?
Well, we checked over all of our measurements that we did a couple weeks ago, and we redid some of them. And we took a look at our pistons, and we matched up our pistons to the bores, and we decided that our pistons that we got are going to most likely work with our engine, and we're also most likely not going to have to take it to a machine shop, which is really great because that is money that I do not have, and I would like to lower the truck. So fingers crossed that it doesn't come to that.
Yeah, I think we can avoid going to the machine shop. We're gonna hone it ourselves, and we already cleaned up. We'll clean up the deck surfaces a little bit more, but we'll hone it ourselves. We just gotta buy a $60 flexible stone hone, the right size and grit. And other than that, we pretty much what we have left for the block is we got to measure the main bearings to check for oil clearance is what we're gonna end up with, rod bearings. And then I also need to measure the cam bearings to make sure we get a cam installation, bearing installation tool and removal tool, because we'll do that ourselves too. If it was going to the machine shop, I'd just have them do it, but since we're going to do it at home. And then we got to prep the block still, so we got to knock all the freeze plugs out, we got to pull all the oil galley plugs out, and then we're going to do a hot tank at home deal. We're just going to get out the hot water pressure washer and some degreaser, and we're gonna put the water to it, through it, and flush everything out. Yummy! Oh, that was right on the face. We also actually, we'll have to get some video of this, found a lot of casting flash in the block that is pretty sketchy. I was able to break, Gramp noticed it first down in the bores. There's actually casting sand, which is probably green sand from casting the block way back when, that you can like pick off really easily. There's big chunks of it, so probably gonna clean all that out. And then I found some, what your typical casting flash you find in your water and oil drain back, that is really quite gnarly, and I was able to break some pieces off by hand that would just trash that engine. So we still got quite a bit of work left to do to the block, but good thing is we're probably going to save about $500 worth of machining, and we don't have to send our engine kit back because we ordered a standard kit, standard piston, standard ring, standard rod, standard mains, which is fine with 30-day returns, free returns. So, and I had already talked to the seller anyways and told them that was a possibility, but and they were fine with that. But anyway, so yeah, it looks good, very promising. We're gonna looks like we're gonna get our needs and our wants at this point out of the project. So until next time,
We'll see you then.